I'm speaking to someone who is going through a moment in their lives where they feel like they are moving forward and backward at the same time. The forward movement feels like something new is coming through. The backward feels like you need to rest for this to even happen, for you to receive it, for it to happen through you, for you to know what it looks like. So you can tell that something is shifting, something fundamental, something important, something big is shifting. And I see that happening very much in sort of like your mind is where, in terms of how you're showing up. How you're showing up. Who are you now? I feel like there's been a void around who you are. To yourself, to your world, and how do you express that? I feel like you were concerned for a while, not sure whether you should slow down or not. And so this slowdown has not actually been physical. It doesn't feel like it's been physical. It feels very much like it's around how hard you work to figure out your next movements. And so you've released that. You've released the idea that you will figure out what to do next mentally, and that you'll figure out what you need to do next before you do it. It feels like that. What's happening is that a lot of the pressures of what is expected of you, those pressures seem to be falling away. Not because the pressure doesn't exist, but more because the pressure was becoming too heavy. The pressure to perform, be something that doesn't feel natural to you, it was becoming too exhausting. There are certain things that you want to achieve, things that you want out of your life. You can look at this as perhaps it's got to do with, your stability. Perhaps it's got to do with a feeling inside, a feeling that you are finally achieving this idea of caring for yourself, putting in what you need in order to get what you want out of yourself. And I'm seeing here a recognition of the change that needs to happen within you in order to meet yourself halfway when it comes to this. What I'm seeing is fewer expectations of the outside world. As I said that, I literally saw like expectations falling, expectations fading. Okay, and I see you placing a lot more of these expectations on your side of the fence, in the areas where you're happy to sit with your expectations while the clarity on how they'll be met settles. And so there's a patience that's coming with this. I'm definitely sensing a kind of a tenderness that you are approaching yourself with at this time. These things that you want require change. And I see that that change is coming. And it's coming from inside of you. It's part of the reason why you're actually retreating right now. Retreating from the noise, retreating from, again, the expectations and the pressures. Okay? And there's also something around the perspective of your life. What happened when I was talking about the things that you want out of your life, I saw in my mind's eye sort of like the 10 of Pentacles card and the 10 of Cups, okay? And I feel like what's being drawn here is like a contrast between the two, as though the 10 of Pentacles has a lot of ideas around how things should appear and how things should look, whereas the 10 of Cups places a big emphasis on how things feel, okay? And a feeling of feeling complete within yourself, your sense of peace, your sense of care. And I see a need that you feel that you want to actually be able to care for others, but you don't want to care for others unless you're cared for. It doesn't feel like that. Perhaps that's a feeling that you used to be able to relate to before, caring for others before you care for yourself. But I'm seeing you needing to care for yourself in order to care for others. It's as if you're placing things in the right order now. Okay, you're like placing rest as a first priority, rest from the answers, figuring everything out. This hardness that sometimes comes through when we find ourselves feeling afraid that things won't work. Okay, so I see you resting first and retreating, and then I see you recognizing what needs to come next, being a sense of self-care and that you're looked after. Okay, that's the next priority. And then after that is almost like out of your rewards. There's lots of R's coming out here. But out of your rewards is where you will then share from. Okay, and so you've set a very heart-centered intention to be able to care for others, but first through ensuring that you are cared for. Okay? And so what I'm really seeing is like things are reorganizing. Things are really reorganizing, and I'm seeing a lot of healing happening in your solar plexus. I'm feeling, at first it was like there was a swelling happening in my solar plexus, but then it started to settle into a comfort with yourself in terms of who you are and whatever, you know, there were these question marks around starting fear inside you around, why do I feel anxious? Why do I feel nervous that I don't have the next steps yet? And then realizing you can actually give your solar plexus a rest. You can actually just let it be. Even if it has that feeling of anxiety, you can let that be. It doesn't have to be solved. It doesn't have to be removed. It's just like letting it be. And what's happening is that a whole lot of these things are reorganizing naturally inside your system to bring through a new aspect of you that's coming through. And I'm hearing an aspect that is very forgiving on oneself, one that no longer needs others' approval. Okay, and I think it's strange for me to say this idea that someone like you would still seek approval sounds a bit crazy. However, if you have a look at some of the things that you were doing, okay, in your life, some of the things that started to create a pressure for you, you will see that the result of those things was very much linked to how you will feel about things afterwards. Okay, and so you were not completely removed from the feeling of what will the result be. And so again, this swirling in my solar plexus is as if there was an anticipation for something and then realizing, no, I've been looking at this the completely wrong way. I should be looking after me first and letting this feeling within me just settle, accept that it will be there. Okay, maybe there's a discomfort. That's okay. That's okay. And what I'm seeing is things reorganizing within your body, because that's no longer the determinant of whether you can step forward, whether you can do, whether you will figure it out later. Okay, it used to be a barrier. It used to be a barrier, and it's speaking to me around your sense of worthiness. I feel like this idea of worthiness may have revisited you of late. A wound that you healed a lot about, but that sort of revealed deeper, like residue of wounds around your worthiness of late. And they're saying that this is due to you expanding into yourself. There are parts of you that you don't actually get to feel until you get to the depths of wanting more out of yourself. So you have, let's say there's this worthiness idea that's layered right through the depths of you. And if you haven't reached down further into the depths of yourself, you will not have encountered those aspects that are really just internal. They're not aspects that are projected onto you by other people. They are internal. They are to do with you. They are linked to a lot of the things that you've wanted, but always you've always wanted them, but somewhere along the way you started to convince yourself that you'd be okay without those things. It's like that. And so now that you're realizing that there are certain things that you really want, you're starting to look at which barriers have you put in place that aren't allowing you to go there. And so you're needing to crack through this worthiness wound around, why don't I feel like I should have that? Why do I keep telling myself, giving myself reasons why I shouldn't want it or why I should be okay without it? Why? Why do I do that to myself? So I feel like you've been having these conversations with you, and very gently, and just questioning and then allowing things to be, and allowing these things just out of your, I'll tell you this right now, like what I'm seeing is your imprint on these things, like when you look at these parts of yourself, just seeing them, something shifts already just from you seeing them. And so all they were asking for was acknowledgement, not hard work, not solving or anything. It's just actually for you to see them, to note, oh, I see that. That's still there. Okay. And also not immediately arguing with those parts of you, not immediately trying to fix those parts of you, just recognizing them. Oh, okay, that's there. Okay. Back to resting while it heals. And so your healing method right now with yourself, your medicine right now in your life feels like care. And it's bringing stability into your temperament, into your, this place where you can get triggered from. This place where sometimes when things are projected onto you, where you can feel like you might be regressing slightly and sort of get upset at other people and all that. And I'm seeing you kind of accepting that you're a raw and living human being that feels, but just being there for it, being present and acknowledging how you feel, rather than reacting to the other person or the system or whatever it is that's triggering you. And I'm seeing you just accepting that, oh, okay, I felt that. Why? I felt that because I'm not perfect. I'm not a hard person. I'm human. I'm living. I'm breathing. I'm feeling. And so you feel it and you see it and you recognize it and you hold yourself and you realize you're going to be fine. And so what happens is these things are no longer rocking your boat. I feel like they used to rock your boat completely, and I'm not seeing that right now. And this is because you've decided to care for yourself and to not expect yourself to be able to solve everything and fix everything. In terms of your interactions with others, something else that I'm seeing is no longer needing to work so hard to say the right things to everyone at the right time. I feel like you are a person who often has a lot expected of them because of what they have done, because of things they have said before, because of who you have been to others before. You've almost created some kind of expectation of a baseline in terms of relationships that people have with you. And you're kind of removing that. I see you almost stripping the rug from under people's feet as far as their expectations of you. Okay? In order for you to have fewer expectations of yourself, you certainly do not have room for expectations of others of you. Okay, and so if you're going to release yourself from you, for sure everyone else has to let go first. Definitely. And I'm seeing that. I'm also seeing that it's speaking to me a lot about a care for yourself. Okay, saving your words sometimes. Thinking them. Saying them in your own presence when you're by yourself. Thinking the worst words sometimes. If you have to, if you must, if you feel like it. Calling it like it is. And not holding it in your body as if it's for you to hold. You're just still remaining very expressive, but to the right places and when you feel like it, not because you're expected to. Okay, and I see the reaction sometimes around you where you're expected to say something and you just don't. And sometimes it creates a little bit of a loud silence, a little bit of a, oh, don't you have something to say? Don't you have an answer here? You know, you might actually get to hear people actually ask you rather than just sit back and expect. This is an opportunity for you to then observe how much value you've been adding to those around you and sit and think about that for a while. You know, there's something that happens that I just want to pause and explain for a while, because I feel like you've observed this, and I just want to flesh it out a bit. But it's this idea that when your words are needed as a form of assistance or support, your words, your insight, whatever it is, your energy that you bring, sometimes when the recipients of that information or those words or insight are not ready to absorb what you're saying, understand what you're saying, integrate what you've shared, what can then happen is then you engage in a sort of rotating exchange over words and energy and stuff of the same meaning. And so what happens then, you're recirculating the stuff within your body and through your voice and through your system, and you're engaging wholeheartedly every single time, not for yourself, but because the place that you are rotating with and sharing with and exchanging with is not integrating it, not taking it in, absorbing it, going back to like use it. They're sort of, in a way, very much politely arguing this information with you. Okay, and I don't mean this in like this is not the intention, but it is the result. It is the result. And so you are really embracing the idea of saying something once, okay, and being very mindful about when you do repeat it, okay, and also mainly sharing it once it's been asked for. So you can hear it being asked, and so you know where it's going. And so once what has been asked for has been received, you see no reason to then repeat it. Again, another form of self-care and honoring your body and honoring your processes and honoring how you feel about repeated activity in places that are not sort of bringing the result that is desired or the result that's intended for those words. And so it's not a matter of holding back that energy. It's a matter of placing it appropriately at the right time with the right people in the right way. And one of the very main indicators of whether something is being done for you in the right way is around how you feel about it. This feels like we're doing a bit of a review, a very gentle review of where you're at, given that you are in this sort of backwards, forwards sort of movement with yourself while you rest. It feels like you're visiting past versions of yourself and future versions of yourself while you're standing still. That's what I'm seeing. And so this is a moment of integration. It's a moment of great growth. And it's a moment of allowing the work to happen and not exerting yourself for it to happen. And for you, you're getting out of the way of it happening. And you're also denying any sort of inclination to force your way through or to put yourself through something that's extremely uncomfortable, and you're recognizing that it's actually not the activity that's uncomfortable, it is the manner in which you have been approaching it that can be uncomfortable. That manner being in a way that you need to look after someone else before you. Okay, and so it's kind of like your point of departure is now you, rather than I need to show up for that. Okay, it's like I need to show up for me, and I'd love to show up for that, but I need to show up for me first. And so your path is starting with you rather than ending with you. And it's starting with what you need rather than ending with what you need. And I'm going to tell you now that you're going to get better results out of you through this approach. Through the approach of care for self first. The rest will come naturally. I just had a vision in my mind. You know, imagine you're sitting in a classroom, an art class, and you have your canvas laid out in front of you and your paintbrush in your hand, and you just haven't put anything on the canvas. And so this is you sort of rewriting for yourself, or allowing your idea of yourself to be rewritten by you. And you're in this conversation with you around who you're going to be, who you are, and what you want. And you're really engaging yourself. And everyone else has their canvas. Some of them have started on theirs, and people are busy around the class. And then someone along the way comes and tries to paint on your canvas. And you just look at them and you're like, excuse me. And it's like, this is, again, you don't say this outright, but you're having that kind of interaction, like you're hearing people as they tell you who you are. And you're not having that. You're like, how would you know who I am before I've said who I am? I decide who I am. Okay, and also, I mean, we can speak of a compliment and a constructive criticism here and there, and I'm not finding you overly sensitive. I'm finding you observant of when people try to write your story, and when people try to keep your story the way it used to look, instead of focusing on their own story, or standing by and appreciating either the blankness of your canvas or, you know, whatever you're doing as you add to it. It feels like a very solid boundary forming, one that does not need to have your own story in order for you to place it. It is your boundary. It is your story to tell. And you are going to allow yourself to figure it out in your own timing. This one is interesting because it was probably happening the whole time. It's probably always happened. The difference is that as soon as you put a boundary in place, it's very clear when someone climbs over it to get to your side. Whereas if there's no boundary, everyone's just sort of waltzing back and forth and moving in and out as they please and doing what they want. And so you're noticing is what's happening. And you're noticing because you've made a very clear decision about how you're going to approach your relationship with yourself and your path and your identity. And so when someone just comes in and tries to just write your identity, you're like, well, how the hell would you know what to write if I haven't figured it out? And what they're saying here is that you actually have, just by setting these intentions, what you've done is you've eased your mental activity. You've eased your mind. Your mind was starting to really feel cluttered and tense and heavy. And you've eased it by allowing this space. They're also showing me, you know, almost like your heart beating and pumping and you noticing something's not right. You know, this is visually, not physically. Feeling energetically into your heart, noticing something is not settling here. My heart doesn't feel settled here. And they're saying you focused so hard onto your heart, which not a bad thing at all, but you focused so much of your attention on your heart that was starting to create mental activity. And they're saying just actually letting go completely, like of all activity, and only being at the places that you mindfully choose to be at, again, physically, mentally, whatever that means to you. They're saying that that is how then you create that balance between your heart and your mind for things to ease up for your heart. Okay, they're showing me sort of like this Libra scale, the scale, and on one side you have the heart and the other you have the mind, and they're saying not too heavy on the heart, otherwise the mind goes out of balance, and not too heavy on the mind, otherwise the heart goes out of balance. And they're saying sometimes if you just let go, you don't then feel the difference in the weight, because this weight that we place on either heart or mind feels heavy according to where our focus is, not in the actual weight of them, of either of them. Okay, and so the importance and the density of either heart and mind are perceived and based on what you're looking at and what you're focusing on. And so when one doesn't feel good, then the other goes out of whack, vice versa. And they're saying when you just let it go, there's then no singular focus on either. And as I said these words, I could feel my voice almost like what's this word? Like I almost said audibility. I don't know, that's not a word, but like my capacity to hear my voice grew. I'm not speaking any louder, but my ears almost like opened up, the volume opened up, with more clarity and more. And so they're saying you'll be able to hear yourself better. Yourself. If you just let it be. You just let it be. I'm going to leave this reading here. I just had a moment where I reflected on the first time that I did a collective reading for Pyramid Energy. It was before I had a name for, the channel or anything, and I just thought, do a reading and record it. Because at the time I'd been doing personal readings, I hadn't done any for a long time, but just the idea of recording a reading for a collective, came to me, and I did it. And what's come alive for me here that I feel like I haven't felt for a long time is the feeling of speaking to people. It's weird. It's like, obviously I'm aware that I'm speaking to a collective, but today I feel like I was addressing people. It's interesting. It's just an observation. Thank you all so much for being here with me. I appreciate it most in moments like this where I can feel you, your presence, and just this divine idea that I am recording this at what time is it? It's 9:15 in the evening, later than I usually record, ever, really. And I feel like it's so divine, this idea that I can record now and you're already hearing me, if that makes sense. You're already hearing me, whoever you are that is still listening now. I appreciate you so much. It's really an honor to be in your presence. If you're interested in any more of my readings, I have a membership. You can check it out on the join button. There are more readings there. Sending you all so much love.